I usually just go questions, but I did want to kind of clear something up. I read a bunch of the articles about me going in and interrupting a class. It's been like this national story that I just barge into a class and interrupt it. I got invited to speak in a class, and as I was there, saw some guys that weren't sitting in the front row. So I want to clear that up because someone writes the story wrong, and then all of a sudden, everybody repeats the wrong story nationally. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Coach, who's standing out right now in the guard competition? Who are a couple guys that you're liking what you see?
In the guard competition?
Or just at guard?
Yeah, I would say the guys are pretty much doing a good job. I think Miranda's probably standing out, and that's basically because we just didn't know what to expect. The other guys are doing a really good job. Miranda's just standing out because you just never know what to expect with a guy that's supposed to still be in high school. So he's done a nice job, but the other guys are doing a good job as well.
James, at the time, and in retrospect, how key was it that Trace and Grant followed you here after their commitment to the previous institution?
You're trying to get me in trouble right now, aren't you? I think if you look at that first class, we were fortunate that first class, could have been a real problem based on the timing of when we got the job. So the guys that were already committed and we were able to keep committed, and then the guys that we were able to bring in, we've gotten a lot of production out of that first class. When you get the job, whatever it was, January 17th or January 11th or whatever it was, not a whole lot of time till signing day. So yeah, it was fortunate. And for us, obviously, we wanted to, rather than starting from scratch, be able to get involved with guys that we already have relationships with. I think Christian Campbell and Torrance Brown are two examples of that as well. Guys that we had recruited and known for a long time. And that's kind of a unique story. I think most of you guys know it, but we called them 11 o'clock before signing day and offered them scholarships, and they committed without ever seeing the place. They came on their official visits for the spring game after they were already committed. So yeah, I think that class in general, obviously Grant and Trace are two really good examples, but that class in general has been significant for us the last 3 years and going into year 4.
James, how are you able to gauge progress in the spring when you're moving guys around and like some guys aren't getting reps? How do you gauge progress that you're making?
Well, I guess it's no different than anything else. Is other guys have to step up, so you're really evaluating, obviously individually, but you're also you're evaluating how we're doing as a team. And when somebody can't practice for whatever reason it may be, then the next guy goes in. Are you able to stop people on defense with substitutions in? Are you able to move the ball on offense? So I think overall it's been good. We have more depth than we've had in the past. I also have had a lot of conversations about that's why the early enrollees are so important. I mean, you see some of the programs across the country, they're getting 12 to 15 guys at mid-semester. I mean, you think about how much, Lamont right now, how much good work he's getting, Miranda, how much good work that those guys are getting, and even the other guys as well. They're just two guys that are really taking advantage of this time right now. So, that's something we've just kind of talked about kind of moving forward. That'd be something that'd be really helpful, make spring practice that much more competitive. But no, I think it's been good. The defense is really way ahead. We did some really good all-season studies, and I think we got a few nice little new wrinkles in there. And then offensively, same thing. A bunch of off-season studies, a bunch of conversations with different people, studying the things that we do and what can we do that's complementary to what we're already doing. And then a few more wrinkles. So I think it's been really good. And then I think the other thing that's been a huge thing for us that's probably not a sexy thing to talk about, so you never get asked a question, but making sure that our snapper is right and making sure our holder is right. And right now, I think Basie's done a tremendous job for us snapping the ball. Been very pleased with him. And then there's a battle right now between Gillikin and Billy Fessler for the holding job. I think we all know that our kicker can knock the ball through the uprights, but I think people underappreciate the importance of the consistency of the snapper and the holder.
James, you mentioned Christian Campbell a little bit earlier. What do you want to see him do to maybe take that next step? And I believe is he one of your top athlete guys when you do testing and stuff like that? I think his numbers are pretty
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that you'd recruit every year in terms of his length and athleticism and playmaking ability. He's had his best off season he's ever had. He's always had kind of issues here and there that have held him out of morning workouts or have held him out of spring ball, whatever. and he's had his most consistent all season he's had. We were kind of making fun of him. We told him that this must have been a contract year for him. I mean, it's his last year. He knows he's got to capitalize on it. And he's really had a really good off season. So we're expecting big things for him. He's always been a guy that can run. He's one of the fastest guys on our team. He had to get bigger and stronger, and he's done that. He's played a lot of football for us. We looked at him as a starter for us. The last 3 years felt like we had 3 starters, and obviously he's going to have a little bit more of a significant role this year. He's going to get a few more reps.
We talked about Jake Zembeck last week, I think it was, physically, throwing the ball with your legs and stuff like that. Where is Trace along his physical development? Is there anywhere else for him to go, and where is he on that side?
Yeah, you look at him, obviously he's not the biggest guy. He's not 6'3", but you look at his lower body development, you look at his legs, you look at his lower body, he's a powerful guy. And that translates to being able to throw the ball. I think he's still got room for growth. I mean, he's still a fairly young player, so he's still got room for growth in those areas. I think that's where you've really seen Tommy develop as well, his lower body, mechanics and some of his upper body mechanics and just getting bigger and stronger. I mean, I forget what Tommy was when he got here. I think he was about 195 pounds, if I'm correct. I think he's about 230 now. Those two guys have really done a good job of developing. Jake's been a guy that we've had a lot of conversations about getting him with the nutritionist and kind of looking at some things because he's one of our hardest working guys in the weight room, but he just hasn't developed the same way as other guys have for whatever reason. We got to kind of figure that out. We got to navigate what he needs to kind of get a little bit more growth in his body because that is going to help his arm strength. Everybody focuses on just the arm, but if you look at it, a lot of times it's their throwing platform. It's are they getting that foot in the ground almost like a pitcher? On the rubber, he's driving that foot into the ground and driving off the rubber. And it's the same thing with a quarterback. And the more powerful you are in your lower body, the more force you're going to be able to create. So that's an area I think he can really improve.
Is there anything different in his demeanor this spring compared to last spring when he was fighting, for the job and nobody knew who the number 1 quarterback was going to be?
You talking about Jake Zembeck?
Trace.
Oh, okay. It's funny because I think I've said this to you guys before. I mean, I thought through the recruiting process that Trace was quiet and that would change over time, that once he got to know us a little bit better, that he would open up. But I talked to his mom. I'm pretty close to his mom and dad, and that's who he is. I mean, that's kind of who he is. When he speaks, people listen. He's not afraid to speak up. He's not afraid to talk. He's very close with his teammates. But I see him probably a little bit more, a little bit more in terms of holding teammates accountable and getting guys going and things like that. But I wouldn't describe him as a rah-rah guy. That's not kind of who he's ever going to be, I don't think. But I do see him a little bit more confident out here in practice from a leadership perspective. Obviously being voted captain helps with that as well. But no, he's kind of no-nonsense, kind of blue-collar guy.
A couple weeks ago, you touched on making some changes to the blue-white game in terms of making it more competitive. Can you give us a few more details on that? Will it be 1v1s or 1v2s, or will you separate the teams differently?
No, I think it wouldn't be ones versus ones. It'd be ones versus twos. It'll be where in the past it's really been ones and twos on one team and threes and fours on another team type of deal. I'm hoping to be able to go a ones versus twos.
What's the idea behind that, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Well, I think we've always wanted to do that. I mean, you wanted to make it more of a game so that you have a better evaluation. On Friday we're going to practice in the stadium because I don't ever like to wait until the blue-white game or during the season. I don't ever like to wait until the first game of the year to go into the stadium because it's amazing just being in there. Some guys don't handle it as well. So we'll do that next week, but just to make it more competitive, for it to be a true evaluation for us. I mean, that's what we do in practice all the time. We go good versus good, and we want to be able to do that. We want to be able to do that, for the spring game as well. Now, obviously, I've already kind of mapped it out now, depending on some tweaks or nagging things like that. Then maybe we'll have to make some adjustments. But as of right now, that's what we'd like to do.
James, a guy like Grant Haley, what's the next step in his development?
I think defensively in general, I've been kind of all over the coaches and all over the players about, the receivers, the tight ends spend so much time in the off season on the jugs machine catching balls. And wherever I've been, not just Penn State, wherever I've been, the defensive players haven't approached it the same way. So, we've talked a lot about you know, if we want to really improve in turnovers, which I think is an area where we can improve, we got to invest in it. You know, and I think the more confident our defensive players are in catching the ball, the more willing they're going to be able to go for the pick rather than the PBU. You know, so that's something I've been preaching a lot, and I think that's something for Grant and all those guys. I mean, if we can increase our turnover ratio and do a better job with picks and things like that, and I'm not talking about making unbelievable catches, just catch the ones we're supposed to, you know, then it's going to really help us, because I think you can take a good defense and become great, or a great defense and become elite by just making that change. If we did nothing different but increased our turnovers next year, it would have a dramatic impact on our defense, and it would have a dramatic impact, obviously, on our offense as well.